Ah, Nerevar, you have come again to hear my sermon. This month is a thematic one, so expect a pattern in them. Today's topic is vampires. Not to be confused with my ash vampires, no, I'm talking about the blood-sucking progeny of Lamae Bal. Let me tell you a bit of lore before talking about some prominent mosquitoes. Vampires are abominations, undead cursed by diseases made by Lamae Bal. Mind you, not every vampire worships him. Some hate him like our resident vampire here, Serana. Some worship someone else entirely, like Clavicus Vile, Sanguine, or Nocturnal, but certainly not I, Dagoth Ur, the only god worth worshipping. What fools they are. Anyway, I'm not going to get into the details, but there are different kinds of mosquitoes, and their clans have their own game of politics in each province. Now let us talk about some individuals of notoriety, and where to begin. But with the first vampire, Lamae Bal. We will keep this one short since it is a very distasteful topic for civilized people like us, Nerevar. Lamae Bal kidnapped this Nidic priestess of Archay and turned her into the first of her kind. Later, when she was returned to Tamriel, she went on a rampage and turned a bunch more, and it has been a cascading effect ever since. Next, we have the pure-blooded vampires, the most powerful kind of mosquitoes of the Aundae Clan in Skyrim. You'll need more than a slap to kill them, probably 2 slaps. Leaving Serana aside, Harkon is the one we all remember. Everyone else in that forgotten lair is just an extra to fill the pointlessly large castle. Harkon has had this idea of blocking out the sun with some ancient bow artifact from that false god Auriel, to let their kind walk around and not be turned into burnt humanoid croquettes. But of course this dimwit Nord leech didn't consider all the possible variables to stealing a damned Elder Scroll. What was he even thinking? That no one would try to stop a global cataclysm from happening? Is this how he honors the 6th house and the tribe unmourned? Even his own wife Valerica, a vampire as well and a powerful one at that, tried to stop him. And partially succeeded, as she did manage to steal the Elder Scroll and seal their daughter, so Harkon was left without ingredients to do anything. His expression must have been hilarious. Mind you, there was one other in that frigid province with an almost identical plan, and that was none other than good old Vyrthur. This ancient Falmer had become a vampire and swore revenge on his own god for allowing that to happen. Pretty logical, if you ask me. What did he expect from a false god? Yet he lived through all the eras, sitting in a throne colder than his toilet, waiting for a chance to use Auriel's bow with the blood of Serana to block the sun and stop Auriel's influence from reaching Nirn. As if anyone cared about him. I'd have helped him, or even done it myself. That'd be one less false god. That said, he also failed miserably and let all those thousands of years go to waste. He really should have spent his time more wisely, or on something productive at least. Immortals can be found everywhere nowadays, but immortals that are also old. I think I myself am slightly younger than he is. What a shame. He could have worked with me. After obtaining the power of the heart, I could have given him Skyrim and returned his people to their former glory after getting rid of the Imperials, but oh well. And surely you are not thinking the Volkihar were the actual first to pop into existence, right? Oh no, they were one of the firsts, alongside the next ones in our list. The Nightlords of the Nighthollow clans, if you prefer the shorter version, Blackreach vampires, or as I like to call them, cave bats. These creatures fed from the energies of the Dark Heart, a mysterious artifact of Namira no one knows much about. Thing is, the Dwemer stole it from them to study it and took it to one of their cities. After their disappearance, the vampires moved into their new, fully furnished modern homes. But well, as always, some interlopers stopped the artifact from working. The vampires starved and went feral. The end. And this all happened in the Second Era, so you probably won't be finding much about them today. Moving on from Skyrim, finally, we've got not a lot of interesting people, really. I can list them to you, however. In the mongrel dog settlement of Cyrodiil, there is the Cyrodiil Vampyrum Order. They say order, but it's more like a syndicate that opposed the cult of the worm and did politics. Not much different from the usual mongrel dog, except that they were vampires. No one really cares about vampire clans nowadays, Nerevar. They are all lackluster and disappointing, but the more you know about them, the more you realize that maybe Harkon did lead the most acceptable one of them all. And trust me, it only gets worse. If only they subscribed to my sermons and honored the 6th house and the tribe unmourned, they would be just a bit better. or at the very least decent. They are still lesser creatures cursed by the disease of some equally disappointing Daedric prince, so we can expect as much from them. And well, Morrowind is not immune to this diseased plague either. The Aundae Clan from Vanderfell, how I hate them. It was because of them that my ash vampires were misunderstood and confused with those leeches. And what's worse is that they, somehow, managed to gather influence with house dress and infiltrate the other houses. I can't call that anything more than pathetic. How can one not distinguish a vampire from a normal person? That clan wasn't even led by a Dunmer vampire. Dawnane is Altmer. An Altmer vampire leading a vampire clan in Dunmer soil. Even a vampiric farm tool would have been a better option. And that wasn't even the only clan Vanderfell suffers from. There's the Berne clan lead by an imperial vampire that fancied himself as a Dwemer enthusiast, a mongrel dog leech dabbling with ancient arcane technology. Yep, I can't see anything going well with this concept. And of course the Quarra clan that hated Berne's guts for some reason. I will never understand the train of thought of these lesser creatures. Now let us stop talking about Morrowind's stain of shame and talk about some others. Rada Al-Saran, for example, a Redguard vampire originally from Yokuda before it sank, a famed swordsman and member of the Grey Host, which was part of the Grey Council. Great naming sense right there. 10 out of 10 in creativity. And of course these Enwas would shame themselves by having werewolves in their organization. I mean, they really must have been desperate to let furries join them. Next, there's Greywyn Blenwyth, yet another Altmer vampire, founder of yet another group of assassins, the Crimson Scars, an offshoot of the Dark Brotherhood. As if having Babette wasn't enough, he wanted to infect them all. And of course they swiftly dealt with him, and that's the end of his story. His group never became popular either. There's also Lovidicus, another mongrel vampire, a nobleman and even grand champion of the Imperial arena. At least he has some achievements to speak of. This one, however, tried to live rather normally and, demonstrating the poor taste of these mongrel dogs, fell in love with an orc of all things who he miraculously managed to have a kid with. Can you believe this? He then told them his secret of being a vampire, and even they were disgusted by it and fled. He then slowly went insane on his own, and nothing else was known about him to the point that his very existence is doubted to this day. That's how minuscule this Lovidicus person was. His son, however, a half-vampire and half-orc, managed to become the Grand Champion himself and became known as the Grey Prince later on. I wonder if these people have something with the color gray? Let me make our last mention about an actual farm tool vampire just for comparison. Shuxaltsei, the Argonian priestess of Sithis, the high priestess of the teeth and devours the sun, are some of her names. See Nerevar. Not 10 seconds into talking about this farm tool, and it already sounds better than all the Enwas we mentioned before. And it's a farm tool for me's sake. And what was this farm tool about? Oh, nothing short of seeing the Hist burn and returning the world to nothingness, much like what Alduin was supposed to do, but by summoning Sithis via blood rituals instead. Of course, the bar was too high for a mere farm tool, but you have to admit it sounds way cooler and more epic than blocking the sun with a bow, doing gang wars inside Dwemer ruins, or playing politics and devising plans to evade taxes for centuries. I won't even bother myself talking about the Khajiit vampire clans of elsewhere. They are just hardcore immortal skooma addicts, so that would be the end of this sermon, Nerevar. Expect more content like this for this spooky month, and comment to try and guess what the next sermon will be about. If you guess correctly, I'll send you a box full of ash yams, and hopefully the Gwar male will not eat them before they reach you. I won't be made responsible if that happens. As always, honor the sixth house and the tribe unmourned by raising your thumbs in approval, subscribing to my sermons, and sharing your thoughts in the parchment below. I give my thanks to my Patreons for their contributions to my sermons.